Hello, everyone. My name is Carrie, and I'm interviewing Kurushio on October 19th, 2020 for the WiC Oral History Project. This interview is being conducted and recorded in a private Discord chat. The recording will be made available for anyone interested on the Black Dragons Discord in the Oral Histories channel. Thank you for joining me today, Kuro.
Hey, Carrie. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I am fine. I hope you're doing well as well.
I do.
Awesome. So, first question everybody gets, how do you pronounce your in-game name, and why did you choose this name for yourself?
I pronounce it Kurushio, and it's actually a bit of a lengthy story, so I try to cut it short, because it has been my gaming name for, 25 years maybe, and it is actually picked from a Tom Clancy book. And it was the name of a Japanese submarine. And it was only last year that I found out that Mr. Clancy actually translated it wrong, and it should actually be Kurushio. But now I just stick with Kurushio. I'm so used to it, so I'm not going to change it now.
No, you made it your own. So there you go.
Yes, exactly.
So when did you first start playing the game?
Well, I'm tempted to say way too long ago, but it must have been very, very early last year.
Okay. So what first made you interested in playing the game?
Well, I guess like a lot of us, I've been a huge fan of the show and the books, and I've been basically reading fantasy books and playing fantasy games my entire life. So I was on Facebook casually chatting and being up to nothing good. And suddenly that ad popped up and I decided, okay, let's give it a try. And almost like seconds later, I ended up on K1, which was a little bit like Facebook as well, right? I mean, in terms of chattiness and toxicity.
I like the analogy there. All right. So you actually were there at the very, very beginning with being on K1.
Yeah, I joined very, very early. I'm probably one of the guys who sticked around the longest, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. So do any family members or friends from offline play with you?
Actually, a couple of friends from this game have become real-life friends, and I met some of them in person, and we actually shared a couple of drinks together, but no one from my prior real life plays the game.
Okay. That's kind of cool, though. You transitioned over. So we know your first kingdom is K1. Tell me about it when you first started playing.
Actually, it was quite a fun time, I must say, because back then the game was, in terms of political environment, rather easy, right? I mean, you had one case and you had LTS, and it was basically the big war, right? I mean, Godiva was still playing, and we had Kiba and Banana on our side. And every week was exciting because the game was adding new stuff, which made total sense, right? I mean, it was good stuff being added, and the entire kingdom was not too large, but still very, very populated. And those wars where you basically just have two sides and you either fight for Team A or Team B, they are not complicated in a way, right? So growing for me in that environment was easy and was fun. K1 turned rather toxic, I must say, right? I mean, we had some people who were really hard to deal with, and that entire conflict between LTS and one case, and also the population of LTS, that was a little bit troublesome in the end. That's why me and some friends then started our own alliance and decided to leave the kingdom. I guess we were some of the first kingdom movers, which was really a big thing back then, right? Because we collected scrolls and it was crazy expensive and we weren't sure if it was a good decision.
So tell me, because I think you're saying you started in LTS. Was that your first alliance or was it something else?
Well, actually, I spent maybe 7 days in an alliance called Fire and Blood, which is actually still around, but it was rather quick that I switched to LTS. So I actually consider LTS my first alliance.
Okay. So how long did you actually stay in LTS?
For 6 months, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, must have been 6 months.
All right. So where did you end up moving to?
After K1, we moved to K7. We actually had a small group with Underreal, Byzantine, who many people still know in this game, and Kiba, who is now in Run, and my good friend Wolfen, who is in Red now, at least with one of her many, many accounts. And we went to K7 because we wanted to fight BLT.
Okay. And how'd that go for you?
Well, it was an uphill battle, right? Because as most people who play this game or have been playing this game for a while know, the Blood folks are very well organized, right?
Yes.
And back then, I Am Legend was still around, who is a very capable gamer. And in the beginning, we were only a handful of people. So it was rather rogue fighting. But we actually convinced some of the people who were already on that server, who are also still around, like Doctor Strange and Groot and Ebony, to actually join forces with us. And it took us, I believe, 1.5 months to win our first castle siege.
Oh, wow. Okay. What did it for you?
It was an awesome fight. It was probably one of the most fun times I had in this game because, if you have a small group of good friends and you basically spend a lot of time on Discord together and you also feel like you're fighting an uphill battle, that gives a lot of motivation. And the Blood folks, as I said, they are very capable. So the fights were actually pretty intense. And it was exciting, right? I had my first double rally ever marching at me on K7.
Oh, wow.
So, that gave me quite a thrill.
So, what was your size at that point?
When I went to K7, I must have been around 120 million, maybe.
Oh, that was pretty big back then.
Yeah, it took me like 1 week on K7 to unlock T4. So I was really close to getting them when I went to K7. And a lot of us had saved up a lot of speed ups to train troops rather instantly when we got there, right? Because back then the troop sizes were not that crazy. And some of us even killed off troops or completely filled up our hospital to make moving a little bit cheaper. So when we got there, Kiba probably did 500 million in troop training, which back then was insane.
I can picture it's insane right now even. So tell me, how did it progress on K7 for you?
We actually had quite a good time then. But as usual, things tend to get complicated, and for some reasons, we in TIC Tigerians decided to move to K14 because there was a big war at that time going on, and Red was fighting one case, and our arch enemy at that time was one case, right? We left Kingdom 1, and when we saw a chance to fight with them again on another server, we said, okay, let's do it. Oh. And we ported our 15 or 20 accounts in TIC back then over to K14, and K14 and later K8. Those servers were also kind of complicated because a lot of new alliances formed then. Red was the big enemy for a time. They were pretty good, and then they got beaten by one case. Then ATD formed. And for me, it was an intense time because the drama in TIC made me quit TIC and actually look for a new challenge. That was the first time when I considered actually leaving the game, because me and Andoril, who I still consider a good friend, we had a little discussion, to put it that way, how to take TIC forward, and we were a little bit unhappy, so I decided to quit Tigerians, and after 5 days without an alliance, I joined ATD.
Okay, so what made you choose ATD?
Well, there were actually not too many alliances to pick from, actually, right? Because one case was never really an option, and ATD back then was kind of the new kid on the block. And I talked a little bit with Thunder Road, with TR, and he actually instantly struck me as a very nice and capable guy. And also, I've always had a good connection with a lot of the Chinese players, like Groot, like Doctor Strange, like Ebony. So moving to ATD wasn't really tough, right? It was a good choice.
I gotcha. Okay. So tell me about being an ATD.
Well, ATD is definitely the longest chapter in my WiC gaming history. I've been with ATD probably for more than a year.
Okay.
And I fought under the ATD banner on, I don't know, K14, K8, K19, K31. So I've actually been there for quite a while. And I still, right now, if you ask me, I still consider myself an ATD player to a certain extent. I mean, I know I'm not in that alliance anymore.
Right.
But it was also a pretty good time. I met a lot of good people there, good friends like Eric, like Dudu, or Tyven. ATD was great, right? I mean, we actually emerged from nothing, and after 2 months or so, ATD was the biggest and strongest alliance in the game. And then obviously the big fight with BCL was a very intense challenge.
So tell me a little bit about that.
As ATD, we actually discussed a lot after K14 what we were going to do. And we obviously looked around for good enemies to fight. And I don't even remember who actually brought it up, but someone mentioned why not go to K8 where ECL, Eclipse, and BLT were fighting, and OBV was still there.
Yeah.
I know you talked a little bit with Kelvin about that time as well.
Yeah.
So it was pretty intense because a lot of exciting players were on that server. And we actually felt that it had a nice dynamic, and actually it was just the biggest challenge around, right? Because Burgle and Kynaston were crazy strong accounts. Blood was organized as hell. And I still remember when we discussed and said, okay, we move in 1 week from now. And like 2 hours later, Dr. Strange had already ported over and already digested 1 or 2 rallies. It was it was cool. It was pretty cool.
So you're over and on K8, and how was the war progressing then at that point? Because you had all different sides, but then it seemed like they basically allied against you.
Well, I'm not going to lie. We, of course, hoped that we would have like a 3-way war, right? That ECL and BLT wouldn't merge from basically day one on. We expected OBV to leave the server rather soon because, I mean, that kind of intense PvP never really seemed to be their sweet spot, right? While on the other hand, BLT and ECL knew exactly what they were doing. They had been fighting each other on that server for a while. With those intense castle sieges between Kynaston and Anduril and Burgle and, of course, Polarix and the other folks. So it kind of happened as we expected, that they would merge. And one of the best things about ATD was that we don't give a shit, attitude, right? We were like, okay, we are ATD. If they need to merge, let's just try it. Let's see what happens.
Okay. So how did that end up resulting for you?
In many, many, many dead T4, and I bet a lot of developers being quite happy with the gifts we gave them. Because right now, in retrospective, the war was, very, very costly, right?
Yes.
Because I guess being a couple of months down the road now, I can say that the merged BCL was definitely better in terms of team play and organization, and they were giving us quite a hard time. However, what ATD always had was that fighting spirit and a core group of people who never really wanted to give up, right? I mean, people like Little Devil, Super Farmer, Ebony, they were always there when war called. So we had some castle sieges that we lost. We had some that we won. We had that one legendary one during KVK, which was fun because instead of fighting the other kingdom, basically ATD and BCL were just going at each other and doing K8 castle siege for, I don't know, like 11 hours. It was crazy.
Did you guys end up even winning that one?
Sorry?
Did you guys even end up winning that KVK?
Yes. No, we didn't. No. We lost. We as ATD, I remember we won that castle siege, but we lost
the KVK.
We lost that KVK, right? Because we only killed each other.
I think I remember that. It was like, okay, they're just gonna fight each other. The other kingdom's gonna win this, and they did. It was from the outside, fun to watch.
Well, from our perspective, it was what actually mattered, right? I mean, that KVK, everyone knew if BCL and ATD would fight that KVK together, no offense, but there was no way we were going to lose it, right?
Yeah, no.
But there was so much tension between the alliances that fighting each other seemed like a very reasonable choice.
No, it makes sense. So, at what point did things start wrapping up for you guys on K8?
That's actually a pretty good question because I'm not even sure anymore. I know that for ATD we kind of started to get into trouble a little bit, so it wasn't our prime anymore. And then BCL decided to leave K8, and suddenly that big war machine ATD was there without an enemy. So as usual, when people get too bored, right? I mean, you have to start thinking what we are going to do next. And me and a couple of friends decided that we wanted to just form a little group of people and just go to K19 and see if we can beat CTL, right? I mean, which was back then already a very big number with also good players and great guys, Napoleon, Sparta, you name it. And we said, okay, we have 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 people. Let's just pot over and see if we can win King's Landing on a server which is entirely against us.
Okay. I was actually there observing it at times. It was fun watching you guys battle King's Landing. Tell me about that. How did that experience go for you?
It was a very decent war because the CTL people and especially Napoleon are just very polite and kind people. So other than K14 and K8, at least in my perception, there wasn't really any toxicity, right? I mean, it was very obvious we were there for the challenge. We just wanted to see if it can be done. And CTL said, again, it's my perception, they were like, okay, this is our server. We need to unite the server. We need to talk to the other alliances and see if we can beat those invaders. And I don't know, in the first 2 days, we killed I actually made a spreadsheet. I make a spreadsheet for basically everything.
Really?
Back then, we killed 200 million units within the first 7 days or so. We really took them by surprise. And my favorite picture is definitely, I'm not even sure if that's the right word, 5 rallies marching at King's Landing at the same time. We were holding King's Landing, and CTL and their Wing Alliance, NW1, SPV with Brobel, and the other folks were rallying us at the same time. It was an iconic picture in my perception.
It was. No, I think I remember the day that you're talking about. It was dragging on, too. Kept on going back and forth, swapping. That was a really good battle to watch.
It was fun. It was really fun.
And you guys were incredibly coordinated. It was really nice to watch that, too. The pulling in and out of the castle. Yeah.
Back then we had some really good people around, right? I mean, Dudu did an incredible job at keeping us coordinated and forcing all us lazy people to join voice. And we had Peekaboo and Kimosabe back then, who both know a great deal about this game. And I would say back then we were already pretty scientific about the game, so we would actually thoroughly analyze every battle and look at stats in detail and compare other player strengths to make sure we actually have the best one of our guys rallying that player. So game wise it was an interesting time.
I gotcha. What made you decide to leave K19?
At a certain point in time, the battle there was fought, right? And we had a good relation with the CTL folks, and we always promised them that we would leave again, right? I mean, we weren't there to stay.
Right.
And then again, we were looking around and thinking how we can actually get our big war with BCL back on track, right? Because BCL had left K8, and they were fighting on K33 at that time. And it was obvious that if we would just go to K33, we would be at a huge disadvantage. So what we tried to do was trying to go after their allies on K31 and making them move to K31 to fight us. And we had already agreed with BTS that they would come and fight with us. Because at that time it was obvious that, being honest, we couldn't face we couldn't win against BCL alone at that time. So that's why we then decided to, okay, let's move to K31, fight with TNR a little, and we tried to look for new allies, right? I mean, you need people that fight with you if you want those big wars to be successful.
So, are you still on K31?
No, actually, I moved on to K67 after I left ATD, and now I'm on K94 with Bai Ziming and the Russian folks.
Okay, so you're with RUI right now.
Well, I'm in Neo N30, but it's just 5 of us there. It's just Ironbreaker, Folgor, Dudu, Eric, and just a couple of friends again. We are off to a small adventure. We took that server by surprise and ported in 1 hour before the second last CCS, just attacked the entire server.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about, since we jumped ahead, I want to go back. So you left ATD. What was the deciding factor for that?
Yeah, well, that's also, again, a complicated but very interesting question, because back then, already on K19, we were a little bit struggling in ATD because iVox had decided to quit, and some other people as well. And worstly, Thunder Road, who had been a great leader, had decided to step down and leave the game behind. And in those days, ATD was a little bit leaderless. So it was actually Dudu, Peekaboo, Kimosabe, and me who decided if we actually want to make a change, we need to step up and take over responsibility. And we discussed internally and came to the conclusion that the 4 of us would try to, make ATD great again. So we needed someone to take the title of Duke, and the choice fell on me. And then we talked with the other guys in the alliance. So on K19, I actually became Duke of ATD and was king on K19 and K8 at the same time, which sounds way more iconic than it actually was, because there was basically no one to fight. But coming back to your question, why did I leave? On K31, I don't know, it felt very toxic, right? I mean, there was a lot of trash talk on World Chat, so we tried to stay away from that. And the entire game just, I don't know, it wasn't fun anymore. It seemed to me that it was more like an experiment who can endure pain longer. Fun was gone. So I said, I either quit or I change. And then again, a small group of friends, we decided to make a move and said, okay, let's see. We felt that ATD and BTS, they were merging at that time. We felt that makes sense. And we leave the alliance not dying, but in proper hands and a lot of good people around. So we can leave and see if we can have some fun elsewhere.
Okay. So where did you decide to go to?
To K67 actually, and the idea was again to challenge a kingdom with a small group of people. We basically tried to do K19 all over again, right. And someone suggested K67 with FDH, who also have a lot of quite good accounts. That's why we decided to go there. And when we arrived, we made up our minds of which alliance we wanted to join, right? Because for a long period of time, we had been, again, also me personally, I've been very PvP focused. So events like AC never were of a huge excitement to us. But we wanted to play that PvE, that event season. And then we started talking to people we knew, and we talked with Iru, who actually made an introduction to Benny from N3O, who's a great guy, a good leader. And we talked for a week to see if we have a fit in values and what we expect from the game, and if they were interested to take us in. And on K67 we then joined N3O, while the entire alliance was on K2 and us being on K67.
So you were under their umbrella, but you weren't actually with the core alliance at that point.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Have you basically kept that kind of setup where you're part of them, but you're somewhat separate as well?
Yes, I guess it's fair to say, right? I mean, we have been discussing a little bit where and how it makes sense to unite the entire alliance again.
Right.
But let me put it that way. Our playing profile is a little bit different because I guess on K94 now, our lowest ranking account has like 1.2 billion power. So all of us like to fight, and we were after the challenge. We wanted to challenge Bai Ziming. And I would say a lot of the accounts in N3O would have a little bit of a struggle on a server like that. So finding a server which actually suits all our needs isn't that easy. It's way easier when you play AC, which is kind of a protected environment, or other events. But in open field PvP, it's totally different. If you are a 500 million account with 4 million T3 and a couple of T4, or if you are a big account with, 20 million T4, it's just a different play style.
So then, let me ask you this, because I got asked this, especially after I did the interview with Millers. What's some advice that you would have for some players in regards to that? How can they improve their PvP?
Well, actually, the first decision everyone has to make is, do I want to become really big, or do I stay as a zero castle? From my perspective, there's not much in between, right? I mean, nowadays, accounts like Kynaston or Ironbreaker, they can solo people with 8 million troops easily, right? So I would say that especially as a low spender or free-to-play, it's really a huge mistake if you build up too many troops. The only exception is if you always plan to be bubbled and you want to focus on PvE and events, which is totally fine. Then, of course, you need a certain amount of troops, right, to be valuable in events like AC. But if you want to play PvP, from my perspective, there are basically only those two routes you can take. And if you end up in between, it's going to be either like 3 months bubbling to build up more troops, or you're going to be really, really disappointed when you wake up one morning and you have been zeroed and 8 million troops are gone.
Okay. So figure out what route you want to take first.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, especially when you only spend a little or not at all, you have to be really picky what you focus on, right? Because in my gameplay, as I would say, mid-spender, I, of course, try to maintain a certain flexibility in my defensive setup, right? So I try to push all 3 troop types, being able to play infantry, spearmen, and cavalry front. But you usually cannot do that if you only spend a little or you are completely free to play. Because as in farming gear or whatever, you have to prioritize certain things. So you need to do that, which makes you a little bit, or your behavior a little bit predictable. But as a free-to-play zero castle, that is okay. For me, that's deadly. If I now move to a server with a hostile environment, and Kynaston or Thomas knows my front line, and I'm offline and unbubbled, it might take them like half an hour to zero me.
I gotcha. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your experience from different kingdoms, because you've been on quite a few of them. What do you find makes a kingdom work versus not work for you?
Again, a tricky question. You're really good, Carrie, right? Because it really depends on what you're after. I mean, people would argue that, for example, kingdoms like K14, or sorry, K8 or K19 were actually very well run and functioning kingdoms with proper rules and gathering rules and war days and peace days and the sharing of titles. And many people find that appealing because it's kind of a stable environment which is very predictable.
Yes.
From my personal perspective, those kingdoms are the absolute worst because I consider them boring, at least for what I am looking for in this game. So for me, a kingdom is attractive when you have a rather balanced war ongoing and ideally of more than just two alliances. So what we had for a while on K14 felt for me like almost a perfect server because we were on K8. ATD and BCL were fighting. We had good allies. We had good wars. And gameplay-wise, that was a lot of fun. And for me, that was ideal.
Okay. So tell me, what's your favorite part of the game?
Actually, it's really, really nerdy stuff. So I guess most alliances have like one or two guys who really like to dig deep and spend hours simulating stuff. And I am one of those, right? So I've probably spent a fair time building Excel simulations, building all kinds of guides to make my friends play better or develop their account better. And for me, that's the most exciting part, right? Because I know this game is obviously or has a huge chunk of P2V elements, but you can still make a difference if you are properly prepared and there is a certain skill aspect. And trying to understand that, diving deep into the game mechanics and discussing those with my close friends, that's actually what I like most.
Okay. So if that's your favorite, what's your least favorite?
Probably and that sounds bad, I know, but the very, very social part. Because on certain servers and that social part tends to become too much somehow, and world chat ends up like a place where you definitely don't want to go. And I'm actually I consider myself, or I try to be a polite person, right? And a lot of the social war part of this game brings out the worst in people, and I don't like that very much.
You're talking about like the trolling and the nasty comments, things like that.
Yes, exactly, right? I mean, I've seen some of the most intelligent enemies in these games I ever had, right? And they suddenly turn into mean little trolls just because their alliance was losing a specific battle. And then they start, mixing up science and the objective analysis of stuff with their own alliance matters. And that always upset me a little. I don't know if you know, but I ran my own Discord on WiC Strategy for, I don't know, half a year maybe, where I invited people from all kinds of alliances. So it was really not ATD focused at all. We had BCL, BLT, OBV, N30, I don't know, the Chinese folks. We had basically everyone on there. And my simple rule was that we tried to stay away from trolling and flaming, and we just discuss the game. We tried to teach the other players new stuff, and we analyzed reports together and tried to figure out why, I don't know, a certain troop type reacted in a certain manner in that specific report. And that worked out pretty well for a certain amount of time. And then it all went down, and I felt like, again, toxicity was present everywhere, and people were blaming each other and screaming at each other, and then I just closed the entire Discord down. So I don't know. At least it was rigorous and strict of me.
No, you stuck with what you felt was appropriate, and I'm sorry that this closed down because I would have loved to have seen that.
It was a good time, and I hope that some people actually benefited from it, right? I mean, a lot of people were there. There was a good time. We had really good players like Opux and you name it, who were sharing their secrets and actually teaching other players to become better, which is interesting because it also makes the alliance fights better. At least I think so.
I mean, it was something I think I discussed actually, I think with Pablo, where if you can talk reasonably with your opponent. They're not your enemy, they're your opponent. And if you can talk to them afterwards and say, okay, how did you do this? Why did this work? How can I improve? It's going to make the battles far more interesting and enjoyable. I mean, it's boring to just beat down somebody. There's no pride in that. There's no real joy in it. It's just, if they can grow from it, it makes a difference.
Yes, I agree 100%, right? I mean, the honor and the pride you can obtain by beating a opponent who is on your level or even above your level, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that is what counts, right? Because if I'm a big count or a big alliance and I just look for all means to maintain my power level and make sure that I always just beat down other ones, it doesn't sound very desirable to me.
Yes. So tell me, how does your impression of the game change since you first started playing?
Well, they added a lot of stuff which I really, really like refinement, for example, because it actually allows you to take a different route in this game. Mm-hmm. For a long time, it was basically just max everything, right? Yeah. But with refinement, you can actually put a focus on things you like. So if you want to play a more defensive style, focus on reinforcement capacity and total attack and whatever. And if you are the big shit rally leader and you really want to attack, you go for army size and rally size, you name it. I mean, I really liked those aspects.
All right. So tell me, what do you think is the key to a successful alliance?
Again, tricky question. I think it's actually teamwork and communication. You need a strong core of people who actually trust each other, who work with each other, and who are willing to invest a large amount of time into coordinating things, picking players that actually fit your alliance, and when it comes to events, that talk a lot and are willing to follow those who, provide direction.
Okay. And for you, because you've been a regular player, you've been an alliance leader, how has that been different for you? What do you think are the pros and the cons of taking a leadership role in your alliance?
Quite frankly, I always said that becoming Duke of ATD was probably my biggest mistake in this game, because it just forced me to do a lot of things I do not enjoy, and which basically pushed me to the brink of quitting, right? Because I don't know, you cannot imagine. And Thunder wrote, he warned me. He said, you can expect this. And I was like, yeah, of course, but I have to try it, right? ATD gave me a lot. I have to try to give something back. And suddenly you become Duke and you receive hundreds of messages per day, right? I mean, really hundreds, where people from your own alliance are fighting about, a level 5 gathering site. And so you have all the Diplo talk, and it really was crazy, right? And what I tried to do was to delegate or work together with the great people that were around me. And if hadn't they helped me a lot, I would probably have quit. So I would say that being an alliance leader or being in a council, depending on how you run your alliance, actually takes a lot of people, and I respect everyone who does that, because you really, really need to sacrifice, right? I mean, it's not a shiny job which gives you big benefits. It's a lot of talking and trying to resolve conflicts, and I don't know if I would actually recommend anyone doing it, but someone has to do it, and some people do great. But for me personally, that was a no. I far more enjoy taking a specific role. Like right now, I'm advising good friends in different alliances on strategy aspects of the game, on how to build their account, on how to set up their defensive formation and stuff like that. And for me, that's a sweet spot, which I still very, very much enjoy.
Okay. So what do you say would be the proudest moment of the game for you?
Again, it depends a little bit on the perspective you're taking, right? So from an Alliance ATD perspective, when we were holding King's Landing on K19 and K8, and we just won that super siege, that was pretty impressive, and that made all of us pretty proud, especially the team on K19 that made it happen. From a personal perspective, because I like uphill battles and I try to outsmart stronger opponents, and I mean, there are a lot of them in this game. It was on K31 when I actually prepared pretty well and tricked Kynaston or whoever was playing that account at that time into rallying me with a bad formation, which gave me a really, really good result because they were falling for a trick I pulled. That I just liked that, right? Because for me it was they are far stronger than me, and I can still find means to win, even just tiny aspects.
No, I get it. It's definitely something to be proudful about, just because, yeah, you succeeded against odds. It's that David and Goliath type moment.
Yes, exactly right. And that combined with still being, oh, bless you, being able to maintain a good relation with the friends, right? Because all of them are scattered around. And I mean, it's not that easy. My oldest friend in this game, Nulle, I mean, he's in BCL. And I have been fighting directly or indirectly with BCL for over a year now, which is not always easy, right? And then I had Blackfire and Underreal and Wolfen and Sir Gordy, and all of them were in BCL, and they are like, "Hey, come on, join us here at BCL." And I was like, "No, I have my reasons, and I'm an ATD. I gave my word, and we can still be friends and talk on other Discords." And now, if I look around, I have Kiba is in Run, and good friends are in BCL. Others are in N3O. I mean, friends scatter, and maintaining a good relation with them and being able to talk despite being opponents, as you correctly put it, that's it's hassle-some, but it's the best part, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, and the fact is that as friends, you can challenge each other and then laugh about it afterwards. You know.
Yeah, it depends how costly it gets, right? I'm
Fair
still happy.
enough.
I'm still very happy if my close friends, even if they are in opponent alliances, if they do not join the rallies on me.
Yes, then it's like, oh, I really don't want to hit you, but I'm so gonna hit you anyway. But I'm sorry, and I hope we can talk afterwards and go have a drink or something. Um, so, what would you say, or rather, who do you admire in the game?
I admire actually quite a few people because it is still surprising to me how many intelligent, kind people play this game and spend a huge amount of time playing it. If I focus on those who are still being active, actively playing the game,
Yeah.
I definitely admire my friend Dudu, who basically is the best at enduring things and working things out when others are too lazy and doing everything for the team. And I mean, that's just amazing, and I truly love her for that. When it comes to pure skill, which is something I admire in people, I have to say probably, despite being my opponent, Polarix, he's definitely a brilliant mind. I Am Legend, right? I mean, he was a mastermind in his time. And probably some guys like the big sleeping giants who are just very, very kind, nice people. And only when you really get on their nerves, they show what they can do. Like people like Folgor, right? I mean, it's crazy. He's so powerful, and at the same time, a very, very nice guy. And still, you have people who try to poke him with a stick, which is not a good idea.
No, not at all. But yes, everything I've heard about Fulgor says that he is a sweetheart.
He
Um,
is. He's a really great guy.
so, are there any special moments in the game that we haven't mentioned that you would like to mention? Something that stands out to you?
Well, obviously, and I don't want to repeat what Kelvin said, but there were those moments when people in the game actually came together to honor those that had died, right? I mean, that was
Yeah.
crazy to see how people's legacy or what they liked in the game actually stayed around for a while. That is from a human perspective, that really, I don't know, that really left an impression on me. And other than that, the diligence with which a lot of people use to properly analyze and dig deep and try to understand what this game is doing. I mean, there are countless moments, and my good friend Eric, actually is probably the person who knows that best, because together with him, I don't know, we spent hours and entire nights drinking whiskey and discussing reports. And that's nothing special, not like that one moment where we, I don't know, won a big battle. It's just what this game for me is about, right? I mean, sharing, discussing, working with friends, and doing that in a good atmosphere.
Is it that aha moment that you cracked something that had been bugging you for a while that really kind of catches your interest?
Yes, of course, right? I mean, I remember when, and that is a while ago, when everyone was trying to figure out what's the effect of counter, right? Which is, again, a very current topic due to the new dragon skill, right? But actually trying to come up with a way to simulate that, and building little experiments in the game. I mean, I don't know how many hours we've fought each other, with different formations just to prove the theories we had. And the moment when you feel like you actually discovered something which might give you the upper hand in a upcoming battle, that's pretty cool, I think.
At what point do you feel comfortable sharing your insight with people that are not directly in your inner circle?
I did that for a long time, quite openly through my Discord.
Yes.
And after that, what I did is I changed the mechanics, my own mechanics a little bit. So I wrote guidelines, like, I don't know, Kurushio's 101 Battle Beginner's Guide, and I always shared that at least with the entire alliance I was in. So we actually wrote and calculated a lot of stuff, and built little tools, little helpers to, I don't know, for example, calculate your optimal batch setup, and always shared that with ATD or now in N3O, right? I mean, I can always encourage people to read it, but to be honest, I probably don't want to know how few people actually do.
Nope, I understand. I had a friend that did a whole calculator Excel spreadsheet thing and helped try to min-max the badges and tavern bonuses and all that kind of stuff. And there's only so many people that are actually going to use it. But those that want those benefits, they make the effort. They try their best to understand it better. So I'm going to just say, if there's anything else, please feel free to contribute. Otherwise, last question, what is the one thing you would want people to remember most about you?
Well, maybe the last thing I would like to add is that for a lot of friends I made here in the game, that I'm really grateful that I met them, right? Because they are from all over the world. My best friends are from Norway, the States, Brazil, China. I mean, that's amazing.
Yes.
And I just want them to know that I feel really grateful for that. Actually, I do not know if I want people, or I think they should remember anything about me. I'm not sure, right? Because for a while, I hope that I played a significant role in the gaming experience of some people. And if that made them feel better or made them have a good time, that's good. That's good enough for me.
Okay. Then I'm going to say thank you for your time. And this was great. I was so glad I had a chance to talk with you.
Carrie, it was amazing. And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I will talk to you on Discord.